Hello everyone, welcome to Peace of Truth. It's February 25th, 6:55 p.m. Just sitting down at the computer for the night, and I read this article, so I figured I'd go over it with you guys. So since my homepage is Bing, this Bing slider came up, and I saw this Iran blows up replica. Didn't really care about that. Kept on going through, and I saw three-person babies, and I had to click on that shit. And sure enough, we get a bunch of stories out of the UK, because that's where the story originates from in this case. I ended up blowing right past the BBC shit, because I usually just cannot stand anything they put out. And I went to The Guardian just to give them the first crack at it. It's kind of funny, this is purple, I thought. And anyway, it says here, Britain's House of Lords approves conception of three-person babies. It says Britain has become the first country in the world to permit the use of three-person IVF to prevent incurable genetic diseases. The House of Lords voted by 280 votes to 48 on Tuesday evening to approve changes to the law allowing fertility clinics to carry out mitochondrial donation. Babies conceived through this IVF technique would have biological material from three different people: a mother, a father, and a female donor. MPs voted in favor of the new rules earlier this month, and clinics can apply for licenses to use the technique from the autumn. Jeremy Farrer, director of the Wellcome Trust, which supports research into mitochondrial donation at Newcastle University, said families who know what it is like to care for a child with a devastating disease are the people best placed to decide whether mitochondrial donation is the right option for them. Parliament is to be commended for this for a considered and compassionate decision to give these families that choice, with proper safeguards under the UK's internationally admired regulatory system. Robert Meadowcraft, Chief Executive of the Muscular Dystrophy UK, said this result will be life-changing for many women living with mitochondrial disease, giving them the precious chance to bear unaffected children, removing the condition from the family line, and reducing the numbers faced with its devastating effects. Addressing the House of Lords on Tuesday, Lord Winston, the Labour peer and fertility expert, acknowledged that treating the first patients would be a step in the dark, but said the same had been true for all major advances in reproductive technology, such as IVF, which are now widely accepted. It would be utterly wrong for this House to turn down the democratically elected chamber, he said. Viscount Ridley said rejecting the amendment would mean knowingly prolonging the plight of those afflicted by the defective mitochondria. If we do not prevent suffering, it is on our own consciences. He said Britain has been the first with most biological breakthroughs. In every case, we look back and see we did more good than bad as a result. Addressing concerns that the rules would pave the way for designer babies, Ridley pointed out the rules apply to a narrow range of serious diseases. There is nothing slippery about this slope, he said, except for, it being a step in the dark. Mitochondrial diseases are caused by genetic faults in the DNA of tiny structures that provide power for the body's cells. The DNA is held separately to the 20,000 genes that influence a person's identity, such as their looks and personality. Because mothers alone pass mitochondria on to children, the diseases are only passed down the maternal line. The three-person IVF therapy could help to eliminate mitochondrial diseases by swapping the affected mother's DNA with that from an anonymous female donor. Technically, the baby would have three biological parents, with 99.8% of the genetic material coming from the mother and the father, and 0.2% coming from the mitochondrial donor. The Roman Catholic peer, Lord Deedon, on Tuesday evening put forward a delaying motion, arguing that it was not clear whether the amendment would be lawful. I find it very interesting that that was his motion, that he was worried about the lawfulness of it. The Roman Catholic peer was just worried about the lawfulness. Anyway. His intervention followed a letter from 50 MEPs calling on European Commission to look into Britain's lack of compliance with the EU law. Slovakian MEP Miroslav Mikolášik and 49 others said the amendment to existing legislation would violate the fundamental standards of human dignity and integrity of the person. And it's funny because it says of the person, and I think that's just a legal term, not really talking about the child, not caring about the child, but talking about the corporation that will be in the child's name. That's for another video. Separately, a group of Italian MPs had urged the House of Lords to vote down the proposal, saying that mitochondrial donation could have uncontrollable and unforeseeable consequences and would inevitably affect the human species as a whole. Lord Deaton told the Lords he was not ethically opposed to the technique, but was concerned that the amendment could be contrary to European law. I do not understand why the government has not taken steps that would allow us to accept that this was legal, he said. You don't launch out into the deep until you are sure you have taken all the issues into account. Other peers argue that since the amendment is part of the existing law, the 2008 Human Fertilization and Embryology Act, there was little doubt that it was lawful. Lord Winston said that doctors were wrongfully accused of meddling with nature, but the patient's interests were paramount. Sometimes we are accused of playing God. We do not try to supplant God. We try to augment His works, he said, which we all know is BS. Around 100 children each year are affected by genetic defects in the mitochondria, and in around 10 cases, the defects cause severe illnesses such as liver failure, muscle wasting, blindness, and brain damage. Since mitochondrial DNA is passed down the maternal line, affected women are guaranteed to pass on the genetic defects to their children, leaving many with an agonizing choice about whether to have their own biological children. In the future, scientists hope they could be spared this choice. So, anyway, some interesting things here. One thing I've learned about anybody speaking in a news article that's speaking the government's side of things, usually when they're speaking, they're telling you the exact opposite of what's really going on. So he said here, we do not try to supplant God. We augment his works, he said. So he is acknowledging a God, but he's also lying, I think. I think he's really, I think they're really trying to supplant God here. I think that's what this is really about. And I'm not trying to get all religious with it. I just think that this is how they're working into making this legal. They're playing on the emotion of the public to the heartstrings, they're tugging at the heartstrings to get everybody to be okay with the tampering of genetics like this. Obviously, they're saying they're trying to eliminate diseases and whatnot, but there will be designer babies as a result of this. As soon as they start figuring out, when they start taking their shots in the dark, as they said. Where does it go here? Alright, designer babies. Because when they first start experimenting, it's going to be steps in the dark. So what's going to happen? They're going to learn how tweaking one part of the genetics is going to affect the eye color. Tweaking another part will affect the hair color. And then from that, the option to have designer babies will spring right up. You see what I'm saying? Designer babies, as of right now, not an option. Can't do it. But as soon as they take their steps in the dark, they're gonna go through a lot of fetuses and a lot of embryos and a lot of semen, and they're gonna fucking run this shit through a lot of people, and they're gonna figure this stuff out. They're basically gonna pick up right where the Nazis left off. And if you're not aware that the royal family in Britain and the Bush family in America, supported the Nazis in World War II, and then after World War II imported the Nazi scientists directly into their pharmaceutical and medical programs to learn everything that they learned in the concentration camps. If you don't know that, you should, and maybe I should do a video on that. But anyway, I don't want to make this too long. I really appreciate you guys watching. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the issue before they start doing it, kind of so I can, chime in before the fact of the matter. And honestly, as bad as it is, I really don't think going down that road is worth it. As bad as it sounds, and I know I'll probably get lots of thumbs down for that and hate mail, but around 100 children each year, with 10 cases where the defects cause severe illnesses, in my personal opinion, that's just not worth the moral hazard and the risk to, the risk that we run when designer behaviors become a reality, when the rich can afford to improve themselves to basically be perfect, and we're still going to be fat, disgusting slob cattle. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you guys very much for your time. I appreciate your support. And as always, if you have not already, please like and subscribe.